The Nathan, Nat and Sean podcast.
You know when kids say, I want to be an astronaut, but they don't have any follow-through?
Yeah.
We're about to meet a person who did do exactly that. Katherine Bennell-Pegg
Hello, Catherine.
Hey, Catherine.
is an astronaut.
Oh, my God.
Katherine, this is amazing. So you've been through the astronaut training program. You haven't been to space yet, but you are space ready.
That's right, and I'm so excited to have just landed back in Australia and to share all what I've been doing overseas. It's been incredible, and I'm excited for the future too.
Well,
I bet.
beforehand, Sean, the only way you could get into space would be NASA, right? And then,
Yeah.
of course, we have private companies like Elon Musk
Yeah.
and stuff, and they're doing their own companies that can get you up into space. But this is like an official space mission. As an Australian, and you went through the European Astronaut Centre in Germany, can you tell us what that's all about?
Absolutely. So I applied to an astronaut call out of Europe, which is the more traditional, government selection programs, just like NASA.
22,500 people apply for that, by the way. Keep going.
Yeah, that blows my mind still. And once you're selected, you go through what's called astronaut basic training. And at the end of that, which took about a year, you get to call yourself an astronaut. So that year was epic because astronauts have to be all-rounders today, right?
Yeah.
So we learned about like science, engineering, tradie skills, medicine. We got, scuba diving in pools for spacewalks, centrifuges, zero-G flights.
Did you do the thing where they've simulated a problem in the spacecraft, and then you only have these things to fix it with because they're on the flight?
We did that a little bit in the selection, actually. So, because as an astronaut, you have to train for all the things that you expect might go wrong and also all the things that might surprise you. So that's a lot of the training, very Apollo 13 style.
Yeah.
Catherine, for everybody listening at the moment, we are looking at you and you're wearing your jumpsuit, which is amazing.
Oh,
Because
Sean,
if that was in a fancy dress,
there would
killing
be
it.
no one nowhere that I didn't wear that to. I would wear that to the shops, to everything.
100%. The other thing before, I was thinking, you applied for this, 22,500 people, as Nathan was just saying, but what was your background to think that this was a possibility or that you were working to this being a possibility?
Yeah, so I've been a space engineer for almost 15 years, but I'm working on satellites and rockets and space stations, which is awesome.
You're
but
amazing.
It's really was a childhood dream come true, to be honest. So I always was interested in being an astronaut since I was a young kid, growing up in Australia, and then never really let that dream go. I was pretty stubborn about it. But the nice thing about the astronaut dream is the fallback options are pretty great. Like you can be a scientist, a doctor, a pilot, an engineer. So I was pretty happy being a space engineer, and this is just that cherry on the top. It's amazing.
And
Well,
what's the likelihood that you will actually get to go to space?
Well, I mean, that's a question for Australia to consider. NASA doesn't just swan in and tap you on the shoulder to fly you. It's whether your country chooses to enter into involvement in human space flight.
We do Eurovision. This is bigger than Eurovision. This is amazing.
It's great. But even through the training this year, what's been great is that Aussie scientists are now able to get more involved in putting their experiments up just by being trained. And just yesterday, I got out to the Lego store in Sydney and the excitement in the kids. Oh my goodness, the energy was amazing. They were gorgeous. So many questions. And 7 out of 10 kids in Australia want to be astronauts.
It's
we need to
amazing,
harness
isn't
that.
it? We
do.
don't have any
We
follow-through
do.
clearly, though,
Yeah.
because...
But you
because
can't go.
it's
You don't go to
just
high
you.
school and they teach you anything about this,
Well,
and there's no
Sean,
pathway then to go to uni
There are
to do
certain
that.
things that are so unreachable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like an astronaut. Like who would ever think? I come from Kalgoorlie. Who would ever think that you could become? Even radio was unthinkable to me.
Catherine's proven it's possible.
Yeah. But Catherine, I watched this TV show and I'm waiting for the next season to come out. It's on Apple TV called For All Mankind. Have you ever seen it or heard of it?
Yes, I have.
Isn't it amazing?
Love space shows.
So basically, it's about the premise of what happened if the Russians beat Americans to the moon and how the space race never would have ended. Now, the one thing that whenever I speak about this show to everyone, a lot of people that I know very well don't believe that we ever made it to the moon. And that blows me away. They go, no, it's conspiracy theories. And then one of their arguments is, when they get out to the moon, did they never go back?
They did.
No. After that whole sort of situation.
Yeah, they went more than once.
Yeah, but why did they never go back? Why did they shut that down?
Catherine, well, what's the answer?
What's the answer?
Oh, so many things to unpack there. So, first of all, we absolutely went to the moon. There were far too many people involved, too many countries involved to keep that secret. And satellites have gone around the moon since from lots of countries and taken photos of the landing sites. I've seen the rocks that are being brought back from the moon. They're phenomenal. But, the reason that we're going back is because we're going back for different reasons. And humanity hasn't been to the moon with people for almost 50 years because back then it was for different reasons. It was the Cold War. It was a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
They did some science, and then there was a lot more to do in low Earth orbit with the shuttles because there's so much science you can do in microgravity there. We're going back because there's so much to be done now on the moon that we can do with all of our new automation technologies and so on. So instead of going, to the equator part, we're going to the South Pole of the moon. And at the South Pole, there's a lot of things we can learn about the geology of the moon and the Earth's formation. And that gives us major inputs into things like climate change models, into learning to live sustainably on the moon, radiation research, and so on. There's much to be done. And this time we'll go back, as a team of astronauts from a team of nations, not just planning the American flag.
This.
But,
Oh my God, for all mankind is becoming real.
It's the Nathan, Nat and Sean podcast. Nathan, Nat and Sean in podcast form.
Katherine, when you gave up your previous job to be an astronaut and the hope of getting to this level, when you go and do all the training which you've been doing for the last 12 months over in Germany, do you get paid? And I don't want to know the number, but is it a proper job that you turn up to and you get paid?
I mean, it's a proper job. So one way to think of being an astronaut, it's like being in defence, right? Like you're doing a job. Even though it's a cool job, it's a job for your country. You get paid for it, and it's part of just a cool job that you do. So I work for the Australian Space Agency still. I did before as well, and that continues. So I'm looking forward to getting back into work there while I continue to keep trained and ready in case I get a flight.
Now, the other thing that we should note is that not only are you an astronaut, you're also a mum of two. Now, how have you managed to do all this? I mean, it's a classic question, but
with a lot of coffee.
It's super impressive. Were there any other mothers in the program?
Absolutely. I was in a class of 6, including myself, and half of us were parents, men and women. And, it's not uncommon for, astronauts to have kids after one flight and then fly again when they have kids.
What happens up in space?
Bit of peace and quiet.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a whole of family endeavour being an astronaut, just like it is for any very demanding job, which requires time away from home sometimes. So for this year, my family was with me in Germany. They got to be part of the adventure. The kids love being at the Astronaut Centre and the mock-ups in the big shed they called it the Astronauts Playground. And it's a wonderful experience for them too.
It's pretty cool to be able to say my mum's an astronaut.
No one else is going to be able to say that.
No.
Every other parent in that class, their parents are boring compared to the children. According to the children, it's like, I don't want to hear about your mum that works at a shop.
Yeah, my mum's an astronaut.
Your mum's a nurse, yay. My mum's an astronaut. I win.
It's the
Everyone
greatest
stop discussing
playground
it.
flex of all time.
It's incredible.
Are you nervous at all? I don't think you would be, because even the way you answered the moon question, you are so technically involved and your knowledge base is so big with this. I suppose you've got a very analytical brain about the dangers if they will or won't happen, yeah?
The dangers are sobering. Like the end-to-end design mission risk is 1 in 200 that you might not make it, which is sobering. And that's why we go to do important work. We don't just go up there to take a photo. We go up there to do good science and good research that the world needs. But that being said, having designed space stations and being part of the designing the capsule that's going back around the moon, I know the level of dedication and effort that goes into the work behind those missions. And my husband's a space engineer that's worked on those capsules too, so he'll be feeling the pressure. Should I go
How
up?
smart. It's your family.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I'd be nice to him while he's on the ground still doing all the controls.
Hey, Katherine, what's the physical component to all this and the training component
And the toll
to that?
it can take on your body. Yeah.
Yeah, it's important to be fit as an astronaut. We don't have to be athletes, but you need certain types of fitness. First of all, to have a long career, so you remain healthy and can keep going to space again and again should you need
golfers
to.
Do, Sean.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, some astronauts are over 60, but in space you have to do about 2 hours of exercise a day. There's a little gym up there, treadmill, bike, weights machine.
Leg day.
Yeah.
Really?
Because
a treadmill in space?
There is. They kind of hold you down with bungee cords. And it's important, right? Because in space, your body's the ultimate adapter. You don't need muscles and strong bones in the same way. So if your body sheds that, you won't be able to do things like spacewalks or come back to Earth. So because because, you lose bone mass at something like 6 times the rate of a postmenopausal woman.
That's extraordinary,
You can
isn't
be
it?
like a guinea pig for medical research for things like osteoporosis, and that's an important part of the job.
Yeah.
So even if like your mission goes right, your body is still on the line up there, and that's why you're looked after by a team of flight surgeons on the ground to make sure you're in the best condition possible to get the job done. And actually Australia has some really good space medicine research and flight surgeon capability that's been involved a little bit in my training.
Catherine, one last question before we let you go. Has anyone ever thrown up in space when they're in a shuttle? And if so, what happens? Because
So many times.
really? So what happens when the spew's floating around? What do we do?
Great question as everyone's having breakfast.
Do you not think, Sean?
Yeah, I do
because
think-
that's
I do
naturally
think.
one
I think
thing that would
you
expel
scramble
out of your
away.
body. That'll be one thing that'll come out of your body that you're not expecting it to. You can control most other things.
You wouldn't want to have a big night the night
Yeah,
before.
so what would happen?
Well, in space, if you're to vomit, you probably have to go get it with a bag.
Yes.
Just chase it around the room.
Like you're trying to catch butterflies.
But most astronauts actually get sick for the first few days up there, so it's pretty rough. You're encouraged to take a lot of medication. If you have to take the strongest medication, one of your crewmates has to catheterize you and all sorts of fun stuff. So
no!
you don't want to be getting sick. There's far worse things than
Catheter.
catching
Imagine
vomit.
me having to put a tube up your wing.
Oh, that is the worst thing ever.
That's just not good.
Actually, let's have a go at it.
This is probably why you boys are never going to be
Just for the
astronauts.
show. Just for the show.
I cannot believe it.
Catherine, we could talk to you all day, but we know we've got to
Catherine,
let you go.
I'm so excited for you, and I can just tell
Yeah.
you're such an awesome representative of Australia, so thank you.
And fingers
thanks
crossed
for
that
having me.
Australia pulls a mission
Oh,
together and
do
you
it.
get to go to space.
Yeah,
It's
this
pretty
is huge,
exciting.
Great
Catherine.
story.
Thank you, and that I don't vomit. I need that
No,
medicine.
no,
I
no.
know.
You're
And
fine.
where's Catherine? Oh, she's in the cockpit chasing vomit with a
And then
bag.
you don't have to catheterise your mates. Thank you so much, Catherine.
Thanks for having
talking
me.
to us.
Bye, mate.
Incredible.
Nathan, Nat, and Sean is a Nova podcast. For more great comedy shows like this, head to novapodcasts.com.au. Nova.